welcome to another episode of Healthy Politics, where we're discussing the eternal intersection of healthcare in the United States and American politics. My name is Nick Carls. I'm a benefits attorney and the Director of Employee Benefits Compliance here at Holmes Murphy. I've been told I've been talking a little too fast when I'm doing these intros. I'm sorry, folks. It's just the way I talk. I can't change it. It's who I am. But with me today, I again have my esteemed co-host, Dan Bishop, former president of Holmes Murphy, and our longtime healthcare strategist extraordinaire. Say hey, Dan.
Hey, Nick. Glad to be here.
Yeah, we were having a little bit of fun talking about our topic for today because we pushed back our recording until after the VP debate. Vance and Walz, went toe to toe and actually had a rather civil conversation. Was not as much meat on that bone, but it was still interesting, and we got some really good sound bites from it, didn't we, Dan? And I have to ask you, what was your favorite moment of that debate?
Well, I tell you, the biggest surprise for me, and I think based on the look on his face, the biggest surprise for Tim Walz was when JD Vance made the statement that President Trump saved Obamacare, which I didn't expect that statement to be made. But that is rich.
That is rich. And so I think what I'm hearing from you is that one doesn't pass the smell test for you. Is that what I'm hearing?
Actually, I think I'll take the other side of this and say, and I'll relate it to, let's take 6-year-old soccer. So you got 6-year-olds out on the pitch. I think at 6 years old, it's still a field, not a pitch yet. Yep. But they're out, and very often when a 6-year-old scores a goal, it might be past their own goaltender and in their own goal because they're just trying to kick it in the net. And so in some ways, I would say President Trump had an own goal, like a 6-year-old soccer game, that he was intending to do one thing and actually ended up doing something else, because I actually really believe that the many of the actions that the Trump administration took, which they fully intended to undermine and destroy the Affordable Care Act, actually healed some of the design flaws that the Democrats had put in. And in a way, instead of killing it, made it stronger. So I'd like to kind of go into a little bit some of the ways that I do think inadvertently, while trying to destroy Obamacare, I think the Trump administration actually made it stronger.
Then I think you keep on rolling with it because I'm curious.
So a couple of things on this. If you kind of think about what the Trump administration, what they were trying to do, is a couple of things that they did. One was they took away what I would say is a market manipulation for some cost sharing payments. I won't go into the weeds about how that worked, but basically insurance companies would charge people less than the cost of coverage, and the federal government would then make them whole on premiums. Trump administration, Congress said, we're not paying that money. So those went away in 2017. And so the insurance companies actually had to figure out how to price these plans accurately. So there was a period of inflation, went really through the first year of the Trump administration, but kind of started in 2015. Over a 4-year period, there was 76% cumulative inflation in the prices for Obamacare plans.
Yeah.
In the next 4 years, it was minus 4% inflation in gross prices, because the insurance companies were kind of in this market manipulation of how much is the government going to actually pay us. These aren't the subsidies. This is all what I call underwronging. Insurance is based on underwriting, and this was underwronging that was there. Trump administration got rid of those things. So insurance companies figure out how to play by the new rules, and they actually stabilized the pricing. And again, didn't really mean to do that, but they did. What that led to was really more choice. And that was a Trump administration thing. And I think maybe we'll talk a little other way about choice, but choice was a big piece of the Trump administration. There was a significant change in choice between 2017, which was when Trump went into office, and 2021, when he when he was out of office. In 2017, there were 21% of the enrollees who only had one choice. There was only one issuing insurance companies, 21%. By 2021, that was down to 4. So these things that they did in the underwriting and kind of changing the rules actually were bringing more carriers into the space. And so you had fewer people that had only one choice. You had almost a 50% increase in the percentage of people that had 3 or more choices. So the Trump administration actually kind of got rid of the inflation that was in that plan. They added more choice in that. The one thing that they did that was very strong in terms of that is they reduced the marketing funding by 85%.
Yep.
And said, we're not going to pay to advertise. We're not going to pay for enrollers. We're not going to do that. Well, obviously, when the Biden administration came in, they put that money back, started advertising, marketing again, and built that up. They increased the subsidies. And so with the Trump administration actually fixing the markets where the insurance companies actually kind of knew the rules at that point, then the Biden administration adding the marketing dollars back in and increasing the subsidies, we've seen the Obamacare enrollment double. But it wouldn't have doubled if Trump hadn't actually fixed the underwriting.
That's a really interesting point because I remember when they were making a lot of those changes, I was still, I would say, relatively new to the industry. I'd only been in it for like 5 years or so. And so when I was watching a lot of that, and I'd be curious to know if you kind of were able to foresee that change happening, the kind of improvement to the market, because for myself, when I was looking, I was like, he's tanking it. We're going to have a total system failure with these changes. And then to your point, lo and behold, it continues to nice steady climb. So did you see that coming when he was making those changes or when the administration was making those changes?
You know, I'd love to say that my crystal ball was that clear. You know,
sure.
I was unsure what Republicans were going to do. They obviously had vote after vote after vote to try to just get rid of Obamacare and never got that done. You know, the health insurance carriers, the health insurance markets are really smart. If they understand the rules, they'll make money. and I do think that taking away these market manipulations that were in the original Obamacare plans that the Democrats who wrote it thought were going to help and actually didn't because it created an unstable economic market. Trump taking those things away, trying to crash it, actually really helped. And insurance companies figured out how to make money, and then more of them came into the marketplace, and it's kind of stabilized the environment.
Yeah. What's interesting about that is there were some other changes that they introduced to kind of, I would say, again, undermine the markets, right? So one of the things that I always look at is the limited duration, short-term limited duration plans, where the Obama administration at the end of it had a rule where it could be, I think it was more than 90 days. And then the Trump administration kicked it up to 364 days. And you could do, I believe it was 3 years of renewal. So people could have these limited duration plans for 3 years, assuming a state didn't have a more stringent set of regulations. And so very affordable plans, but they weren't really insurance, right? If you get diagnosed with cancer or something like that, that limited duration plan is not going to do much for you. You're going to have to go and get yourself a real health plan, but it's undermining the market, right? You're taking away the good risk. People say, hey, this is better than nothing. I can get my prescriptions filled, my cheap prescriptions filled, let's say. So, go ahead, Dan.
Well, I think the other thing, kind of thinking about choices, because that was one of the things they did to add choice, good or bad. Take it. I do have, like you, I have concerns. If somebody truly has a significant health issue, then you are uninsured for the really big stuff that's there. But the other thing that the Obama administration had created, the QSARA plans for small employers. So an employer could get out, give them choice. Well, then what did the Trump administration do?
They expanded it, right? We got ICRAs. We got the individual coverage health reimbursement arrangements. And it was amazing because I remember when in the rollout of the ACA, when they started getting rid of the ability for employers to reimburse premiums on an HRA, we had a decent number of clients where it had a big impact to them, right? It was a useful tool for them for certain populations. They really liked it. And so it was, nope, you have to get them on the group health plan now, right? And now, for those of you who don't know, you can implement something called this ICRA, where you can reimburse individuals' premiums in certain situations. You have to do it for a class of employees. There's a decent number of rules that go into it, but we got that one during the Trump administration. And for some of our clients right now that are trying to contain costs, it's an extremely valuable tool, right? Because what it enables you to do is say, hey, I know that I have, a large portion of my population that's just driving up my costs right now. You're able to move them to the individual market. Everyone basically has to go to the individual market, but then it's the individual market that's bearing that cost, and you don't have your rates going up to, by 50%, whatever it is right now. And that is the amazing thing. We've had a couple of employers that we're talking to, people that maybe aren't clients yet, or some of them that are clients, where they are looking at 50% renewals because they're in a bad market. They have some individuals that have had really bad health issues. And yeah, it was a good tool. And that's one where I want to quickly point out the short-term limited duration plans. They got rid of those. In 2024 here, they axed those. We're right back to basically 3 months is the max. The ICRA continues. In part, I think, because they like it. It channels people to the exchanges. It gets them onto that individual market.
I think it's fascinating. If and they have different names, but if you ever told the Obama administration and the Trump administration, hey, you people are actually implementing the exact same thing, you agree on this, they would have been horrified that they agreed. But it's the small group versus everybody. It kind of opened up the access. And again, in ICRA, or individual coverage HRA, is truly a 401k style health insurance where the employer is giving their employee a fixed amount of money that can vary based on age, based on class, basically you can vary it based on different things. And the individual goes and buys their own health insurance plan. So the employer is saying, I'm no longer the underwriting entity for all or a class of employees. I can't take the risk anymore. I don't own the insurance anymore, but I want to help with the economic responsibility to pay for health insurance. So if you need it, here's the money. You can buy it on a tax preferred basis. I do think there's, and maybe we do a separate broadcast on that someday. Mm-hmm. I think there's a host of reasons as to why it hasn't taken off more than it has, but we are seeing clients with 50 and 70% rate increases when they have some large claims. Because one of the things that the Affordable Care Act didn't do is protect employers against pre-existing conditions. So individuals have pre-existing condition protections. Employers have none. So if you as an employer have large claims, the insurance marketplace, which, as we said earlier, knows how to make money, will price it to make money, and it can make it unaffordable for you as an employer to be your own underwriting group. The ICRA plan, which was really an expansion of an Obama administration idea, but was a Trump administration implementation, I do think is an open door that more and more employers are going to explore.
Yeah. And before we close out here, and for some of you listening, you might think, well, this is the golden goose. This is the solution. I will say that we work with a lot of employers where in order for it to be affordable coverage using an ICRA, under the employer mandate, some of those other requirements, it's still really expensive, and it's actually cheaper for them by quite a bit to still go with a group health plan, right? You have to always do an analysis on a group by group basis because there is no one size fits all answer. I wish there was. No, I don't wish there was, because then I wouldn't have a job. That would be the issue, right? We'll keep away from that one at least until I'm hitting retirement. But
all right, so let's wrap with the one question. So JD Vance said that the Trump administration saved Obamacare. So,
sorry, keep on laughing.
Do you believe that the Trump administration actually saved Obamacare? I'll let you go first, and then I'll go second.
So before we started this conversation, because again, we didn't talk before this, right? Before we started this, I would have laughed again like I just did, and I'm like, absolutely not. But you've sold me on this. I actually am looking at it and kind of connecting those dots, because that's what you do, right? You look at the bigger picture. I'm more into the finite rules, but when you kind of laid it out there like that, I'm like, holy cow! Unintentionally, they maybe scored on their own goal, but they scored a goal. A point is on the board, and I would agree with you. They probably did do quite a bit to shore up the ACA, whether or not it was intentional.
I think the Republicans scored a goal for the Democrats. I think
Sure.
that's what happened.
Yeah, and well, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next 4 years here. I mean, I guess that's why we're having this conversation. But I think with that, we should probably wrap up for today. It was I like this one. This one was fun. But it doesn't have to be the end of the conversation. As you guys, as I always say, reach out to your Holmes Murphy representative. They know to get in touch with us if you have other questions or you want to talk to us about this a little bit more. We're happy to do that. And then Dan and I were kicking around, perhaps trying to rope in one of our pharmacy friends for the next one. So much has been going on with drug pricing, and that's been a big part of the campaign. So I'd be curious to get one of our experts to weigh in. Maybe we'll get Nathan to join us. So with that, Dan, I appreciate you joining as always.
Thanks, Nick.
Yep. Have a good one.